put on your head coaching hat right now, David Diehl. Would you play Daniel Jones at 75%, or will you take the backup veteran Colt McCoy to start this game this Sunday?
I wouldn't take Daniel Jones at 75% because you know that when it comes to hamstrings, they're tricky. These are things that linger not only for the rest of this season, but linger into the offseason, whether they're minor or major. And then you have to take into account not only a quick turnaround, but a 6-hour flight to Seattle. I know for myself, when we were part of the Giants making those road trips, we'd have compression sleeves or compression tights underneath our suit pants because of the cabin pressure and all that goes into that flying all the way to the West Coast. So for me, I would not play Daniel Jones at 75% whatsoever. I would save him for the back half and the rest of the stretch of this season, and I would utilize Colt McCoy. Listen, we know that Colt McCoy doesn't have the athletic ability of Daniel Jones. You're not worried about him running zone reads or RPOs and being able to break contain on the outside. But the one thing that you know that he can do is manage this football game and play complementary football to the defense. He's been in this system for a long time, going back to his time in Dallas with Jason Garrett. So he's going to make plays, but he's a quarterback that I don't think is going to be costly with the football, because we know that when it comes to ball security, that's your job security, whether you're the backup quarterback or not.
I'm using that deal. Ball security is your job security. All right. So you answered the question on what a Colt McCoy-led offense might look like. So let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Can the Giants contain Russell Wilson?
Well, that's one of the big things that they're going to have to do is contain Russell Wilson, because we know he's able to make those unorthodox plays when he's able to extend them outside of the pocket and with his legs. And the one thing that you got to give Russell Wilson a ton of credit for is you never see him get big hits. You see him slide, you see him go out of bounds, you see him duck and take the 2-yard gain. They're going to have to maintain him inside of the pocket, and that's where those defensive ends and the interior pass rush can't give them those clear running lanes for him to go. So it's going to come down to gap discipline. And then on the back end, James Bradbury has had one of the best seasons out of all corners out of this year of the 2020 season. But even with that, you are not leaving him one-on-one solo on an island up against DK Metcalf. I know that speed matters, but you know what else matters? Size. When you're 6'4", 250, have a tremendous catch radius that can get over the top, I'm sitting there watching that game up against the Eagles going, Jim Schwartz, what are you doing? Why are you leaving Darius Slay all by himself out there? They had a 72% completion rate when they went at Darius Slay with DK Metcalf. You've got to help him over the top, and that's where I think Logan Ryan has to play a key role in this game up against the Seahawks. Be able to get on the back end and be able to help over the top.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do want to follow up there, though, Diehl. Does this become you game plan to defend DK and step out of what you do traditionally, or is this already sort of in line with what the Giants can do defensively? They just need to make this slight adjustment.
Well, I think they all have these. There's certain times where you're going to play bracket coverage and you're going to try to disguise it pre-snap before the play. But it's going to be a chess match between Russell Wilson and Blake Martinez. Because if you see Russell Wilson before the snap, you see him doing the curls, shooting the guns out to his wide receivers. It's literally a chess match before the snap is called. So, number one, it's going to be up to Blake Martinez to get this defense alignment and assignment. Those things are crucial on the road, regardless of whether there's noise in Seattle or not. And secondly, if you're the Giants defense and if you're Patrick Graham right now, your biggest goal and objective is to stop Chris Carson. Now that they've integrated a run game to make sure that they have max protection and to aid their defense, because we know this defense has given up a lot of plays and they're not one that can sustain a full fourth quarter shootout. If you can contain Chris Carson, that's where you expose their vulnerability, and that's their offensive line. This offensive line, yeah, they've been able to pass protect due to the running, but when they weren't able to run the football, Russell Wilson got hit 7 times, he's gotten sacked 5 times, and those were the games that he threw those interceptions.
So when it comes to offense, we want to make sure we're not turning over the ball with Colt McCoy. Defense, stop DK Metcalf, Chris Carson, and Russell Wilson from going crazy. Special teams for the Giants have been pretty stinky lately. They're going up against a very capable Seattle Seahawks. How do they bounce back this Sunday when they fly over to Seattle?
Well, to sit here and say that the special teams didn't have a little tryptophan hangover when they went in this past game would be an understatement. That's the one thing that you're always worried about when you're coming off of a bye, is that you're worried about not just your defense and your offense, but the plays that show up on special teams. And they showed up early in that game up against this past game that the New York Giants played and won. So that's going to be crucial in this game, not only for the battle of field possession, but moreover, they've got to play complementary football on the defensive side of the ball that aids the special teams. That's why a lot of people don't understand that. You know who the best friend of a defense is? A great punter. So with that said, they've got to do a great job of putting them in inside the 10 and inside the 20 so they don't have a tremendous amount of field advantage and where they can really open up their playbook and take those shots midfield.
Okay. I love, Dave, you present everything so matter-of-factly. It sounds sort of simple. Let's get into the execution. Part of the total package is going to involve new offensive line coach, and I don't want to mess his name up, Coach D. So Coach D. Guglielmo.
There it is.
I know that's someone that you know.
Guglielmo.
The Guglielmo.
Was the gabagool.
Yeah. Guglielmo is a great coach and a great man. He was my offensive line assistant for our first Super Bowl 42. So in regards to the system that they're running and the plays that they're running, it's no different. He's been consulting from the outside, looking in and looking at this Giants offensive line. What he was brought into is to hone in on those individual techniques and fundamentals that fit this scheme. Obviously, it's not something that you think that would take place during the season, especially during a bye week when the Giants offensive line was playing the best that they have this season. But with that said, if you knew that there was a problem in Coach Judd and you knew that it's an area that you want to address, it didn't work out for him to be an assistant O-line coach. So if this is something that you're concerned about and you want to move forward, do it now. Don't wait until the offseason. Capitalize on it now. Get the offensive line used to this new coach and be able to have the same thing that we were talking about, the experience and the progress that's going to push towards that 2021 season.
All right, David, so let's talk about the Giants division, the NFC East, the division I don't think anybody really wants to win. But the Washington football team has a big game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, 11-0. I know Monica, our fellow DMV representative, may not have enough faith in her team, but how big of an upset alert should the Pittsburgh Steelers be on, especially coming after the crazy week they just had with the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, one of the things that we know is that when it came to the Pittsburgh Steelers still sitting at undefeated, they have played down to their competition. They have played up and down games and haven't been consistent based upon who they were playing and then having to have that second half push late in the third and late in the fourth to be able to overcome those wins. But coming into this game, playing up against the Washington football team, I can tell you right now, number one, offensively for the Steelers, they're concerned facing this Washington football team front. When you have Chase Young and the rest of these guys up front that can attack the quarterback and are stout up against the run, that's something that regardless of what their circumstance or what their record is, you've got to respect them because it's not what people are saying. You see it when you watch film and break down what that Washington front is doing under Jack Del Rio. But where the advantage for the Steelers is that defense. I mean, the fact that they can rotate up front, have multiple blitz packages, they could have roamers picking up, standing up, walking around, so it's a numbers game. We know that Alex Smith is an experienced pro, and he is going to manage the football game, but it's up to you to hit those quarterbacks and make sure that you continue on it because we know hits are cumulative on the quarterback, and that was one thing that showed up for us in that 2011 NFC division game in San Francisco.